What happens when the guy bringing your bread works harder than the people selling it? Owen Vargas had built his bakery chain from the ground up after buying it from an old couple 10 years ago. Back then, it had just 3 shops. Now, there were 15 spread across the state, same logo, same bread, but in different neighborhoods with different faces. He believed in running things with heart, but lately, something felt off. He'd been getting too many vague reports, staff turnover up, complaints about cold service, deliveries being late, and one store in particular, Store 7, had more issues than the rest. But whenever he asked the new district manager, she'd brush it off. Minor things, Owen. Nothing serious. He hated that answer. He hadn't been on the ground in over a year, too many meetings, too much distance. So he decided to go undercover again, no cameras, no crew, just him, a fake name, a delivery van, and a disguise good enough to fool anyone. He'd never met most of the newer employees anyway. With 15 stores, it was impossible to know everyone. He grew a beard, dyed it gray, threw on a pair of thick glasses, and put on a company polo with a name tag that read Dennis. He planned to pose as a trainee delivery helper for a week, rotating through a few stores. Store 7 was first. The store sat in a busy corner of town, lots of foot traffic, but the windows were smudged and the morning display looked stale. Right away, he noticed the delivery driver he was paired with, Russell, was at least 60, maybe older. Thin, quiet, and moving slow. "You Dennis?" Russell asked as he loaded crates into the van. "Yeah. First day," Owen said, keeping his voice low and raspy. Russell gave a nod, didn't say much else. They drove in silence, making the rounds. Russell did most of the lifting. Owen tried to help, but Russell waved him off. "You're new. Don't pull your back on your first shift." At Store 7, the moment they pulled up, a loud voice barked from the back door. "Finally. You're late again, Russ," the store manager, a woman in her late 30s with a sharp tone and arms crossed tight, stood waiting. Her name tag said Tina. She didn't even glance at Owen. One of the workers inside, a younger guy with earbuds in, didn't move to help. Russell grabbed 2 crates and stumbled forward. "Truck got stuck at the loading dock at Store 3. "Excuses," Tina snapped. "Hurry up." "We're already behind." Owen clenched his jaw but said nothing. Inside, the store felt cold, even though the ovens were running. The workers barely spoke. A girl behind the counter, probably 19, was juggling orders while 2 others stood near the back, arguing about shifts. No one helped Russell unload. No one even acknowledged him. Owen stepped outside to grab another crate. When he turned, he saw Russell drop to his knees. "Russ," he rushed over. Russell's face had gone pale. He collapsed forward, bread crates scattered around him. "Hey." "Somebody call for help," Owen shouted into the store. No one moved. The girl at the counter froze. "What happened?" "Call someone, he's down." Owen knelt beside Russell, who was breathing but barely responsive. Tina finally poked her head out. "What's going on now?" He collapsed. Owen barked. "Call an ambulance," she groaned. "He does this sometimes, low sugar or something. You knew he had issues and still had him lifting all this." Owen snapped. Tina shrugged. "He always insists on doing it, not my fault." He stared at her in disbelief. "Get me juice." Now, one of the workers finally ran to grab a bottle from the fridge. Owen lifted Russell's head and helped him sip. After a minute, his eyes fluttered open. "I'm okay, just dizzy." "You're not okay, you need to sit down." Paramedics arrived within 5 minutes. They checked him out and decided to take him in for more tests. As they loaded Russell up, Owen followed them to the van. "I'll ride with him," he said. "You're just a trainee," Tina said. "We've got a busy morning and you're not on the schedule for the rest of the shift." Owen turned to her, holding back every ounce of anger. "I'll be back tomorrow." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever." At the hospital, Russell looked embarrassed. "I hate causing trouble," he mumbled as he lay in the ER bed. "I just didn't eat this morning." Again, Owen sat beside him. "Do you have anyone to help you?" Russell shook his head. "Wife passed 3 years ago. My son's in Texas. I keep working because..." "Well, I need to. You shouldn't be pushing crates alone." "I've told them," he said. "But they don't listen, they just want it done fast." Owen sat in silence for a moment. He'd heard enough. This wasn't just about cold customer service anymore. This was about respect, or lack of it. When he returned to the store the next morning, he didn't wear the delivery polo. He walked in wearing jeans and a jacket, clean-shaven, with his real face showing. The same girl from the register did a double take. Tina came out from the back. "Can I help you?" He looked her in the eye. "I'm Owen Vargas. I own this place." Her face went pale. "What? I was the trainee yesterday, the one who watched your driver collapse while you stood there doing nothing." All eyes in the store turned. "Are you serious?" "Very." He stepped forward. "We're going to have a conversation. In private." "Now." Tina opened her mouth, then thought better of it. She led him to the back office. Everyone in that bakery suddenly stood a little straighter. Owen closed the door behind them. He'd come to check in on service. Now he knew he had a much bigger problem to fix. Tina sat rigid in the office chair, hands pressed flat against her thighs. Owen stayed standing. Behind him, the walls were cluttered with outdated posters, shift schedules printed on curling paper, and a whiteboard that hadn't been updated in weeks. A half-empty cup of coffee sat on the desk, cold and untouched. "You can start by telling me how long this store's been operating like this," he said evenly. Tina crossed her arms. "We meet our numbers, we make quota." "I don't see the issue." "You don't see the issue in a man nearly passing out on your loading dock while your staff stood around. He's 70. He should have retired already." Owen leaned forward, his voice lowering. "He's 63, and he's working because he has no choice. That man is still putting in more effort than half the staff I saw in this building." She exhaled through her nose. "Look, I didn't ask for him to be on my delivery route. He was assigned to me. He's not your problem, is that it?" "That's not what I said. You didn't have to." "Your attitude spelled it out." She shifted in her seat but said nothing. Owen walked to the door, opened it, and looked out over the store. The girl from the register was helping a mother with 2 kids. 2 other employees were restocking shelves, moving slowly, barely speaking. The atmosphere was strained but quieter than the day before. "Who handles hiring here?" he asked without turning around. "I do." "Then why are you short-staffed? We had 2 people quit last month. One no-showed 3 shifts in a row. The other said she was tired of the way customers treated her." "Did you ask why she felt that way?" "She was sensitive, couldn't handle rush hours." He turned back to her. "Or maybe she didn't feel supported." Tina stood up. "I'm not running a daycare. I need people who can work without needing a pep talk every 2 hours." Owen stared at her. "And what do you think I need?" She blinked. "What? I'm your boss. Not just some guy in a suit, but the person who signs the lease on this building, who buys the flour your team uses, who hired the manager who hired you. And I'm telling you what I saw yesterday isn't acceptable. Not morally, not operationally, not by any standard I've ever held." Her mouth tightened. She didn't argue. "I'm not firing you today," he continued, "but you're stepping down as manager, effective immediately." "What? You can stay on as floor staff if you like, hourly, same benefits. Or you can leave, that's your choice." She took a step back. "You can't just—" "I can. And I am. I'm sending someone in this afternoon to manage the store until we find a permanent replacement." She looked stunned, but he could see in her eyes she'd known this might be coming. She didn't protest again, just nodded stiffly and left the room. Owen stayed behind, rubbing a hand over his face. There was no satisfaction in what he'd just done, only weight. He stepped back out onto the floor. The girl at the register glanced over. "You were here yesterday, right?" "With Russell," he nodded. "Yeah, I'm Owen." "Ellie," she said. "Is he okay?" "He's in the hospital. They're doing tests." She hesitated. "He's always nice. Brings in donuts when he has extras." "I figured." She looked around, then leaned in slightly. "Are you really the owner?" "Yeah." Ellie bit her lip. "Can I say something, please? I don't think most of us hate working here. It's just, no one really listens. We run out of supplies and have to make do. The ovens are overdue for cleaning, and we're short on gloves half the time. Tina said not to bring it up because it makes us look incompetent." "How often does that happen?" "Pretty often. A lot of the delivery stuff shows up late or missing items." "Who logs it?" She did, but when I looked once, she'd marked everything as received. Owen narrowed his eyes. "Every time." Ellie gave a small nod. He thanked her, then stepped outside and pulled out his phone. He called the operations coordinator, a woman named Marissa who'd been with the company for 4 years. "Have you ever gotten discrepancy reports from Store 7? He asked. "Not in the last 6 months," she said, surprised. They've been marked clean every week. Check the supply logs against the warehouse inventory. I think someone's signing for shipments they're not getting. There was a pause. You think someone's diverting supplies? Could be. Or someone's cutting corners and logging fake confirmations to avoid reporting shortages. I'll pull the last 8 weeks and cross-check. Send me what you find. He hung up and walked around to the back of the building. The alley was cluttered with empty boxes. A few were flattened and stacked neatly, but others were just shoved against the wall. He noticed a layer of flour near the dumpster, too much for a simple spill. He examined the boxes. Several were unmarked. One had a broken flap that revealed empty plastic trays, the kind they used for bulk dough deliveries. Those weren't supposed to be stored outside. He took photos. Back inside the store, he met with each employee one by one, not to interrogate, to listen. Ellie had opened the door, and now the others felt like they could speak. A young man named Marcus said he'd asked for training on the espresso machine 3 times but was told to figure it out on YouTube. Another, Rosa, said she used to work at store 4 and transferred here after her hours were cut. She regretted it. I earn more hours, but I go home exhausted. Tina scheduled me 8 days straight once. No one had been trained on health code updates rolled out last quarter. No one had seen a district manager in over 2 months. Owen spent the rest of the afternoon helping behind the counter. He didn't tell them to work harder. He worked with them. Took orders, cleaned trays, refilled the napkin dispensers. Customers reacted better than the day before. He noticed something simple but telling. When employees felt seen, they moved faster without being told. By late afternoon, Marissa called back. I compared the warehouse logs to the delivery entries. There's a pattern. Store 7 has missing items in nearly every delivery: eggs, yeast, gloves, even packaging materials. But the store logs show full receipt. How far back? 8 weeks minimum. Before that, the logs get sloppy. Who signed them? Tina. Her name's on every single entry. Owen thanked her and hung up. He didn't need a full investigation to see what had happened. Tina had been signing off on deliveries without verifying them, possibly to avoid hassle, possibly worse. Either way, it had led to inventory problems, food handling risks, and staff frustration. And no one above her had caught it. That was on him. That night, he drove to the hospital to check on Russell. The older man was in a shared room, propped up in bed with a nasal cannula and a crossword puzzle on his lap. "Back again," Russell said with a faint smile. "Wanted to see how you were doing. They're keeping me overnight. Blood sugar dropped too low. They think I've been skipping meals more than I admit." "Have you?" Russell hesitated. "Sometimes I just forget, or you're rushing." He gave a slight nod. Owen pulled a chair beside the bed. "You're not going back on the delivery route." Russell looked up. "Don't take that from me. I'm not. But I'm not letting you run yourself into the ground either. I've got a position open at the training facility, lighter hours. You'd be helping train new drivers. It pays better and comes with a bonus if you stay 6 months. Russell blinked. "Why me?" "Because you didn't quit when you were treated like you didn't matter, and because I need more people like you shaping the next crew." He didn't say thank you. He just nodded once slowly. That was enough. Owen left the hospital and sat in his car for a long time before starting the engine. The next morning, he wasn't in a disguise. He showed up at the bakery early with a clipboard and a list of repairs. The interim manager, a quiet but firm woman named Patris from Store 2, was already there, walking the kitchen with Ellie. Owen didn't interrupt. He just watched. There was still a long way to go, but the bread smelled fresh again. By Thursday, the early quiet inside Store 7 carried a different tension. The morning air still held the smell of flour and burnt edges, but now there was an undertow of uncertainty, new eyes watching, new rules forming. Owen arrived before opening, dressed in the same understated jeans and jacket, clipboard in hand, not to oversee but to observe. He didn't need staff to fear him. He needed them to believe someone was finally paying attention. Patris had stepped into the interim manager role with a calm presence that didn't invite argument. She kept her voice low, never raised it, but everything she said stuck. In the first 2 days, she'd rearranged the prep station for efficiency, rotated the closing assignments to prevent burnout, and scheduled a 30-minute sit-down for each staff member across the week. Owen stood near the side counter, thumbing through the new supply logs. They were cleaner already, no rushed marks or vague initials. Actual item counts were being noted. He saw Ellie coming from the back, apron dusted with cocoa powder. "Morning," she said as she passed. "Looks like the ovens are running smoother," he replied. They were overdue for maintenance. Patris called it in the first hour she was here. Had someone from HQ out that same afternoon. He nodded. "How's the team handling the shift?" Ellie gave a shrug that wasn't dismissive, just tired. "It's better. We're still short, though. Marcus is covering doubles 3 days this week." He won't say anything, but his hands are shaking by closing. Why hasn't he spoken up? He thinks he'll lose hours if he complains. Owen looked toward the back where Marcus was restocking trays. His posture was rounded, eyes dull, the kind of fatigue that doesn't wear off overnight. "I'll talk to him," Owen said. Ellie hesitated. "He listens to you." That caught him off guard. He nodded, then made his way to the prep area. Marcus was sorting parchment sheets into bins. His movements were precise, almost automatic. He didn't notice Owen until he was right beside him. "Got a second?" Marcus straightened. "Sure, you've been putting in extra hours. I heard you stayed to close with Rosa last night." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "We were behind. I didn't want to leave her with it. You getting any sleep?" "Enough." Owen didn't push that. The answer was clearly no. "You've picked up everything fast. Clean technique, good pace. You trained before." "My uncle ran a diner upstate. Helped him summers when I was a kid." Owen nodded slowly. "What would you say if I told you I was looking to build a crew of trainers? People who can help standardize prep across all locations. Not management, just skilled hands teaching new hires the right way." Marcus looked uncertain. "Like full-time, eventually. Part-time for now. You'd still work shifts, but it'd come with a pay bump and fewer closing duties. You'd spend some mornings working with new hires across other stores." He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I'd want to think about it." "Of course. No pressure. Just wanted you to know it's on the table." Before Owen could step away, Marcus said, "Most people just tell us to work faster." "I'm not most people." He left Marcus to his trays and returned to the front, where Patris was reviewing the new delivery manifest. She had a yellow pen in her hand and 2 pages marked for discrepancy, nothing major, just a few missing gloves and a mislabeled crate of dried fruit. "Warehouse needs to tighten their labeling," she said, not looking up. "I'll bring it up," Owen replied. "Anything else?" Staffing's still thin. "Rosa's been on pastry for 6 days straight. She hasn't complained, but her pacing's slowing. I need a floater to rotate in." "I can pull someone from store 4 for a few shifts," she nodded once. "Also, your schedules were a mess, no buffer between closing and opening shifts." "I've adjusted them, but we'll need someone else certified on the espresso station." "Ellie's next in line. She's been watching training videos in her downtime." Patris paused. "She's a quick learner." Owen leaned against the counter. "She's also the reason I found out half of what was going wrong here." Patris didn't give compliments easily, but she nodded at that. As the morning rush hit, Owen stepped back into the background. He didn't interfere. He just watched. Customers still came in with the same impatience, the same caffeine-fueled urgency, but now the team moved with more cohesion. There were still hiccups, a wrong order here, a spilled latte there, but no one froze. They recovered, communicated. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Around noon, a courier dropped off a small box addressed to Patris. She opened it at the back counter, a new set of wireless thermometers and a digital timer for the proofing cabinet. Tools she had requested 2 days earlier. Owen had expedited them himself. "Didn't think these would come until next week," she said. "I put them through as executive priority." She raised an eyebrow. "That a real thing?" "It is now." Later that afternoon, Owen stepped outside for air and spotted someone leaning against the alley wall beside the dumpster, mid-30s, lean build, hoodie up, arms crossed. He recognized the face. Kevin, former assistant manager under Tina. Owen had seen his name on payroll but never met him directly. Kevin saw him and stood straighter. "You the owner?" Owen nodded. Kevin shoved his hands into his pockets. "I got let go yesterday, I know." She said it was for attendance. "I missed 2 shifts last month. My kid was sick." Owen studied his face. You were marking deliveries as received when they were incomplete. I just signed what she told me to. Tina handled the logs, said she'd fix the rest. You knew crates were short, Kevin exhaled. Yeah, but I didn't think it mattered. We were always told to keep it moving. That mindset nearly put someone in the hospital. Kevin looked away. Owen's voice didn't rise. You want to make this right, Kevin looked back, surprised. How? We're building an audit team, internal, quiet. I need people who know how the corners were cut because they've seen it firsthand. You'd be reporting to HQ, not managers. Spot checks, inventory tracking, anonymous if needed. Kevin looked suspicious. You serious? I don't offer fake outs. He was quiet for a while. Then, I do that. Owen handed him a card. Call that number, ask for Marissa. She'll walk you through the process. As Kevin walked off down the alley, Owen leaned against the wall and looked up at the sky. The clouds had thinned, but the sun still hadn't broken through. Inside, Patris was leading a short training with Ellie and Rosa, walking them through a new cleaning checklist Owen had never seen used properly in Store 7. It was laminated now, stuck to the wall with fresh adhesive. Small thing, but it meant someone planned to use it. That evening, before leaving, Owen gathered the team out front. No speeches, just a few words. I know this week has been a lot. You've been asked to adjust, to work with new faces, and to answer questions you probably never expected. I want to thank you for showing up. Not just physically, but with effort. They stood in silence, still unsure what to make of him. He continued. This store lost its way. That's on me. I stepped back too far, trusted the wrong people. I won't let that happen again. Ellie looked like she wanted to say something, but didn't. He finished simply. If you see something wrong, say it. If you need something to do your job right, speak up. And if someone treats you like you don't matter, come to me. No applause, no smiles, just a shift in the air, and that was enough. When he left that night, he didn't walk out the front. He slipped out the side, past the alley, past the crates that had finally been cleared. He got into his car and sat for a moment, not to reflect but to rest. His phone buzzed a message from Marissa. Audit team approved. Kevin's on board. Starting Monday. He replied with one word, good. By the following week, Store 7 had stabilized, but it was still running thin. The cracks were narrower now, but they hadn't vanished. Patris had managed to keep the shifts covered by rearranging the existing staff instead of overworking them, but one call-out or late delivery could still throw the whole day off. Owen knew that kind of balance didn't last. It was a patch, not a fix. He returned on a Wednesday morning, not to audit or observe, but to meet with the staff in a closed-door session. Not just the floor team, he'd called in every team member who'd worked at Store 7 in the last year, including some who had left, if they were willing to show. 17 people filled the makeshift chairs in the break room. A few leaned against the walls. Ellie sat up front. Marcus was in the back near the cooler door. Kevin stood by the exit, arms loosely crossed. He hadn't put on a uniform, but he was here reinstated through HQ under a separate department for auditing. Owen stood near the front, hands at his sides, not holding notes. I want to talk about what happens next, he said. The room was silent. I've spent the last 2 weeks listening. Not just here, but across 4 other locations. Hearing about what's working, what's broken, what's being ignored. And I've come to a simple conclusion: we built this company wide, but we forgot to build it deep. He scanned the group. Most weren't nodding. They were just watching, unsure where this was going. When I started this place, we had one rule: respect the work, not just the product, not the brand, the work. And what I saw here in the last month told me that rule got lost. He looked at Patris, who gave a subtle nod. That's changing. He stepped aside and pointed toward a folded corkboard on an easel. Patris opened it. On it were 3 laminated sheets, each listing a new internal policy. The first, every store would now have a staff advocate, a rotating team member who met monthly with HQ, without a manager present, to report concerns and ideas directly. The second, shift audits would no longer be announced. They'd be conducted blind, by trained internal auditors like Kevin, who had no reporting line to local management. The third, a floor-level training stipend would be established. Any employee who completed a cross-skill training espresso, pastry, scheduling, or delivery logistics would receive a one-time bonus and certification. opening paths to transfer or promotion. None of it was flashy. But none of it had existed before. When the corkboard was wheeled aside, Owen looked back at them. I'm not asking you to believe things got better overnight. I'm not asking you to trust that we've fixed everything. I'm telling you we're starting from the ground up again, and the ground is you. He stepped back. Questions, thoughts, anything, say it now. A young man near the middle raised his hand. What happens if managers ignore this stuff or retaliate? They're gone, Owen said simply. No warnings, no second chances. If someone retaliates against a report, I want to know. You can contact me directly. My information's in the handbook now. An older woman near the back, who hadn't spoken yet, narrowed her eyes. What makes you think people will speak up? We've done that before. Nothing changed. You shouldn't have had to do it alone, Owen said. That's what the Advocate program's for. You won't be the only voice anymore. We'll hear it from 5 stores at a time, every month. Ellie raised her hand, not shy. Are these changes just for here or everywhere? Company-wide, he said. 15 stores, all locations. No exceptions. She looked down and nodded once. No one applauded. There was no dramatic shift in energy, but they stayed, asked questions, took copies of the new policies, and when the meeting ended, no one left early. Afterward, Owen stayed behind with Patris in the office. You think it's enough? He asked. It's a start, she said, but it won't hold without staff support. They'll come around. Some will. The rest will follow if we keep our word. Later that afternoon, Owen drove across town to the training facility, a modest warehouse repurposed with classroom space, prep kitchens, and a simulated storefront. He found Russell in one of the side classrooms, seated at a long table with 2 new hires, walking them through the delivery manifest checklist. He wasn't wearing the old uniform anymore. He had a Navy company jacket with an embroidered name patch, Russell Training Lead. Owen waited until he finished the segment before stepping in. Russell looked up. Didn't know you were stopping by. Wanted to see how the new gig's treating you. Russell leaned back a little. Not bad. They listen, that's new. One of the trainees chuckled. Owen turned to him. He giving you the hard version or the easy version? The trainee grinned. This guy, brutal, made us resort the paperwork after we filed it backwards. Russell didn't smile. They need to learn it right. There's no redo when a driver shows up short on crates and someone marks it clean. Owen nodded. Exactly why you're here. He pulled a folded sheet from his jacket pocket and handed it to Russell. What's this? Your official contract extension. Includes a mentorship bonus. Russell unfolded it slowly. Didn't expect that. You earned it. Russell folded it again, tucked it into his folder without comment. As Owen turned to leave, Russell said, You're not going to let this slide again, are you? No, Owen said. I'm not. Russell nodded once, then went back to his training. Outside, the early evening light was beginning to stretch long across the sidewalk. A delivery van passed by, the company logo barely catching the last bit of sun. Owen stood there for a moment, watching it turn the corner, vanishing from view. Back at Store 7, things were still far from perfect, but the staff moved differently now. Orders weren't just shouted, they were echoed. Counters were wiped before they needed to be. Ellie had taken over espresso prep and was showing another team member how to clean the group head properly. Marcus had accepted the part-time trainer role and was now wearing a black apron designating him as a certified cross-skill lead. Not a manager, not a supervisor. Just someone trusted to teach. The old rot hadn't been cut out with one conversation. But it had been named, faced, and removed where it counted. Owen didn't need to go undercover again anytime soon. He didn't want to. But he'd restructured the district manager program, cut the layers between him and store staff, and implemented a quarterly rotation. He'd be working 3 random shifts a quarter in any store under his own name. No warning. No disguise. The only way to stay close to the truth was to keep showing up where people least expected it. The next week, he put his name in the schedule for a Friday morning shift at Store 11, not as CEO, just as Owen prep line, 5 a.m. start.